go through life and some of the stressors that you may experience as a Black person in America, you have to show a certain amount of strength. In the Black community, we reward strength, and then we have this limited view of what that means. Therapy is a strength. Crying and releasing it is a strength, because it's much easier to say, I don't want to deal with that. When you have to deal with the thing you want to avoid, that's strength.
And in terms of mental health challenges, what particular challenges do you see for getting these populations the help that they're going to need?
Well, Black men and boys are more likely to be misdiagnosed and less likely to receive the appropriate level of care, even when they seek services. The additional effects of hypermasculinity make this doubly challenging for this population. Black men and boys continue to be denied their tears and their emotions. In my Ethnic Youth Resilience Lab, we address the need to change the conversation around mental health for Black men and boys and normalize the discourse around emotions, vulnerability, and mental health.
Many of the issues facing the Black community require uncomfortable yet necessary conversations, and mental health is certainly one of those issues that's at the top of that list. According to the Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, although African Americans make up just 13% of the population here in the U.S., we are 20% more likely to experience mental health issues more than any other race. And according to that same agency, African Americans disproportionately suffer from depression, ADHD, PTSD. But the problem, even though we know these things, we're not talking about them in a real way and actually talking about the solution.
Hello, and welcome to Primary Care. I'm your host, Dr. Lonnie Joe. Depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States and affects an estimated 17 million people each year. Black men are just as likely as anyone to have depression, but less likely to get help for it. Left untreated, depression can lead to chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, sexual dysfunction, substance abuse, and even death. According to the Centers for Disease Control, suicide is the third leading cause of death for African American males aged 15 through 24. Black men can no longer live in silence and in the shadows of this treatable condition.
Hi, welcome back to Undefined Truth. Today, I'm going to be talking about mental health in the Black community. So often I come across Black people, African Americans, Haitians, Jamaicans. If I'm leaving anybody else out, fill it down in the description box below. But this is all to say that people of color, primarily Black people, have this negative stigma of therapy where it's only for white people or other people outside of them. Let me just drop some facts for you guys to help build my case. Black people are 20% more likely to report severe psychological issues than white people. Black people sometimes experience more severe forms of mental health issues due to needs not being met and barriers to forms of mental health care. Things that influence the psychological issues or distress that Black or African Americans experience is due to exposure to violence and homelessness. Now, for all my freedom fighters out there and people who have all these theories, I want to say that there are so many underlying issues and history that I'm not bringing into this video. If you do have strong opinions, don't forget to leave them down in the description box below. So I just said that 20% of Black people are more likely to report psychological distress. However, only 25% of Black or African Americans actually seek therapy, compared to the 40% that white people seek mental health care. Those were the facts. Now let me tell you a little bit of my thoughts. In my opinion, Black people are experts on the problem. We can tell you who, what, when. We have a reason for this. We have a reason for that. And I'm not to say that these are not true. I do know that, as I stated, there are so many issues and so many underlying contexts that I'm not sharing that does go into these statistics. But I'm tired of talking about the problem. I'm here to talk about some solutions. No, I can't really speak on history too much, but I can speak on mental health care, and that's what I'm trying to do today. So you may be asking, why do Black people not go to counseling? You may know for yourself, but this is, as a whole, what research says. Black people don't talk about the topic. They have trouble recognizing the signs of when they do need to seek additional care, often not knowing where to find help. In most low economic neighborhoods, there's payday loans, there's Kentucky Fried Chicken, but yet there isn't a central location for where you can seek help. Another reason is overly relying on faith, community, and friends. But what happens when your friends or your community don't know how to deal with your abuse, with your trauma, with your loss? What do you do then? These are some of the reasons why the Black community doesn't know when therapeutic treatment may be necessary. So why do only a quarter of Black people actually seek therapy? Most don't trust white people to understand who they are, that they may have to change how they speak or how they dress just for them to get the help. There's also discrimination and prejudice that happens among the community. And often when Black people think of going to get mental health care, they often think of a white male or white female that they have to go talk to about their problems. As a result, the interaction for Black people in mental health care often are mandated, or that they have to do it because the courts have told them that if they don't go to therapy, that they'll lose their kids, or they'll go to jail for a longer sentence, or because they're caught up in drugs and they now have to go to rehab. And when something is forced upon you to do, it definitely doesn't breed warm feelings and vulnerability for you to share about what's going on with you. It comes from a place of being forced, and thus there's more resistance and more distrust. This is why I created Undefined Truth, because the truth about mental health care doesn't have to be the status quo. I really want to provide informative education to all communities, but primarily the Black community, because there are Black therapists, there are Black counselors out there who are willing to help. You only need to know where to find them.
Because sometimes when you have a mental illness, you feel so different. It's like you're not even, you feel so disconnected. Like I can't even feel like other people feel, When I would burn myself, the sound of the needle hitting my skin, I could hear my skin burning. It brings back that, okay, I am human, I am here because I can feel this pain.
I went to prison twice. Both times it was drug related. My first time going to prison is when they put all the labels on me. The psychiatrist will talk to you for 5 minutes and give you a diagnosis. And 9 chances out of 10, it's wrong. And you really shouldn't be there, because that's taking the guy that has mental challenges and placing him with the guy that's just a straight up criminal. And you know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be trouble.
When I was 8 years old, my mother and father asked me who I wanted to live with, and I chose my father, and that really, really hurt her. At that time, she could not see that I was just a child. She just saw someone who she loved leaving her. And so as a result, I hated myself for it. It was a very traumatic event for me because I was like simultaneously disowned by both of my parents. So I think that is what really brought about the depression and the anxiety, because I couldn't understand why I was even born, why I was even here. And so I started to do a lot of self-mutilization. I looked really ugly and just disgusting. I just felt like I was just a worthless person.
I can say the trauma and the scars that we carry and the pain that we carry, and it's not okay to talk about it, and I don't care, because the truth needs to come out.
I didn't want to die without having my voice heard. I felt like there was some reason why I had gone through the things that I had gone through, and there was some reason why I have depression, and people need to understand that. And I feel like that couldn't be something that could be written in a suicidal note.
So a lot of my experiences, I didn't realize how painful they were until I became mature. And then I realized the hurt that I carried and the reason that I acted out in the way that I did.
This kind of self-hatred within ourselves, it's this perception that everybody else has around us. We've taken it in and we've kind of lived it out.
You feel like it's something wrong to admit that you have some form of mental challenge.
Taboo in the African American community it can be hard. Both my mother and father have that they're carrying that weight of our ancestors, of their parents and what they went through. So much mental damage was done to the African American community through slavery.
They'd much rather tell you that they got AIDS before they tell you that they have some form of mental illness. And it's just that much stigma.
When you're seeking help, when you're trying to become well, if you get a deep cut and you go to the doctor, you don't say, oh, that's a white thing, I'm not gonna go to the doctor. My leg is bleeding and I'm losing feeling, but I'm not gonna go to the doctor.
The first thing you have to do is remove the so-called stigma from it.
Because African American people need to really comprehend what a mental health illness is before we can proceed with any other, area of achievement in America.
Today I'm challenged because I suffer from major depression, and I'm fortunate to find a man that treated the depression and not just zonked me out so I wouldn't be a problem.
Everybody needs support. Everybody has that one person or that friend or whoever, relative, whoever, that they call on when they just need to talk to somebody. And that's really what therapy is.
And I finally started to believe that I had a chance, that I was going to be okay.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee, and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with a sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee, until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart, And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed. From the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servedst not the Lord thy God with joyfulness, and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favour to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kine, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedst throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. So that the man that is tender among you, and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat. Because he hath nothing left him in the siege and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege, and straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in thy gates. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee, until thou be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass, that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good, and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you, and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, Would God it were even! And at even thou shalt say, Would God it were morning! For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.